Okay, well, first of all, my name's Ruth. I'm from Simply Ruth Ltd. I run an online marketing company in Colchester in Essex. I'm going to give a little presentation today about who's afraid of the dark. Just to show hands, anyone out there frightened of the dark? Just a little bit? Okay, well, it's hardly surprising, really. I mean, our primary sense has been taken away. It's dark, scary things happen, monsters live in the dark. Just want you to start to think about your customers, okay? Some of our customers, they feel the fear and they do it anyway. And customers are really the one thing that we have got in common. I think that's safe to say. They all want our products and our services, and we want their money, to put it bluntly. I've got over 18 years experience of dealing with customers, and I've, in the last 4 months, really thought long and hard about those customers and encountered different types. Oh, see? I've really put them into 3 categories, 3 stereotypes of customers, and this isn't the normal way of targeting your customers or segmenting your customers. This is from my perspective, but I think I might be able to share with you some insight. Now, I'm sure each and every one of you have got one of these or 2 of these in your client base. Now, dinosaurs were really good at some things, laying eggs. I personally could never have laid an egg in my life. But they didn't keep up with the times and they became extinct. Dinosaurs aren't good at everything. I mean, they're just not equipped for the job. Dinosaurs, self-professed or otherwise, they are frightened. They have no idea what we are talking about. They don't even know what an iPad is. Facebook is for the young ones and Twitter's just a fad. So when we start talking to them about CRO and PPC and conversions and graphics, we blah, 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 blah. What are we talking about? Now, I have to say, dinosaurs are probably my most favourite type of customer, because they're a challenge, but they're not impossible to work with. They are experts at what they do. Most of them are very, very intelligent people, but they just don't understand what we do. So I've got a few tips. Can you see that? Not at all. Okay, well, I'm going to read them out, so see it on my screen. So first of all, keep it concise. When you work with a dinosaur, keep it concise, keep it simple. It makes sense to them. Oh, here we go. That worked that time. Speak in a language that they understand. If you think about maybe talking to your mum or an older aunt and they get what you say, that's the sort of level you need to pitch it at. They don't understand the language that we use. And focus on outcomes, not the technology that we've used. They don't really care. They don't know what it is. It doesn't make sense to them. Okay, now my next type of client, I can guarantee we have all got 1 or 2 of these. Is that a yes? A know-it-all? Okay. Now, I'm not going to lie, the know-it-all is particularly tricky to work with. They come with some challenges. There might be a big ego you've got to deal with. They might feel very threatened. They may have built a website 10 years ago. They might have been on Facebook yesterday, but it doesn't mean that they know the things that we know in our industry. Again, they're not impossible to work with, but I do recommend, and I'm sure you've all got some tips in your toolbox of how to work with them, but they can take up a lot of our time and drain our time, an hour on the phone every day, asking relentless questions. What's this report? Why does this look like that? I don't understand when I look at it on my iPhone. That's because it's a test site, it's not ready yet. But you need to really think about, if you're spending an hour every single day on the phone with your know-it-all, you're not spending time on their account, and it's dead money. So one of the things that I really think is useful is to find out about them. What makes them tick? What do they need to do to look good in their job? Because if you can help them do that, then they're going to be a little easier to deal with. I found this works. Have a frank conversation with them. Look, Mr. Know-it-all, 20 hours a week on the phone to you is simply not productive. I will send a report to you on a Friday. We will talk on the phone for an hour on a Monday. That's it. You've got other clients to prioritise. If they want 20 hours extra a month, then it's going to cost them this much. I've never fallen short with having those conversations with people. You don't need to be rude. You could just tell them how it is. So that comes on to setting clear boundaries for them. If they know what you are going to do for them and it's written out, then you're able to move on and agree what you will report on. Again, this gives you something to be able to manage their expectations. Now, my third type of customer is a little more difficult to identify, and you're not always going to know from the offset that this is going to be the sort of person you're going to be dealing with. But I'm sure everyone's got a little Miss and Mr. Busy, and you know that. You go and meet them, you have a brilliant meeting, they've asked you to come in, the meeting's gone really well, yes, give me a proposal. So you go back, you put a proposal together, you send it off to them, nothing, you follow it up with a phone call, nothing, another phone call, another email, another phone call, and suddenly they're on the phone, can I have it yesterday? Again, little Miss and Mr. Busy, I mean, they're not really afraid of the dark, but they're just moving so quickly through what they're doing, they don't even see the dark. They don't know about our jobs. They're actually quite happy to pay us to do our jobs, but they're so busy doing their own job that they don't really realise how much that can slow things down, and that can be really frustrating. So, my first tip for dealing with little Miss and Mr. Busy starts right at the very beginning, because the dinosaur and the know-it-all are actually quite easy to identify. When you meet a client, it might be the one and only time you meet them face to face. Let's face it, it can be a virtual world. You don't have to see them face to face every time you meet them. So be prepared. Ask them about, is there somebody else that works with them that might be able to speak to you in the event that they're really busy? Find out about what other projects they're involved in, because if you know what else they've got on their workload, they'll open up a little bit to you because you're asking questions about them, but also you can factor that in. Put a strategy together which clearly identifies what you're going to do and where the responsibility lies with them. If you can have a project timeline where it's very clear where the client input is going to impact a project, this can also make them accountable and stop you getting such a hard time at the other end. Just because they're really busy doesn't mean you shouldn't fulfil your obligations. If you say you're going to get that job done on Friday, make it happen, because you can bet your bottom dollar if you don't, they'll be on the phone complaining to your boss. So I've covered already, ask for an alternative contact. This can also come after you've met them. Send an email. Ask, you're really busy, I really need to move this project forwards. Is there somebody else that can help me? At least you've asked. And I would say that this is really, really important. Be persistent, don't give up, okay? Just because you can't get through to them, eventually the message will hit home. So, in short, I'll summarise. Stereotypes can be very inaccurate, and I have generalised through my experience over the last few years. But think about your clients. Really, the best ways to think about them is as individuals, which is what they are. But some of the tips that I've covered today, you can combine and put them into your toolkit if they're not already there, and if they are, polish them out and just try and utilise a combination of those tips for dealing with your clients. I haven't put on here the ideal client because they don't hassle you on the phone. They send you the bits of work they said they would when they could. They're happy to give you a recommendation when you've finished. They don't take up lots of your brain space and lots of your time and make unnecessary demands on you. And above all else, take these off for a moment and speak in plain English. We really understand what we're talking about. And I remember when I made the move from marketing to digital marketing, my first month there, I Felt like my head was going to explode. I had to have a separate meeting with a technical director after a month and say, can we just have a little 1 hour training session, because I don't really get what you're talking about. I'm really sorry. And he said to me, Ruth, I don't understand. You're not stupid. Why don't you understand this? And I said, well, let's just slow it down, okay? Because you say that word there and I don't know what that means, so everything else that follows on doesn't make sense. So just because we know and understand what we talk about doesn't mean that our clients do. So really keep it basic. The jargon that we're comfortable with, it's a bit like going to see your accountant and he starts talking about tax and HMRC website and it's all very scary. I don't want to know about that. That's why I pay you to do this. It's the same for us in our industry. And lastly, I really recommend that everyone carries out an annual customer survey. It's one thing to know from a client firsthand, brilliant, loved your project. If you send out a form that asks for feedback, you've actually got it in writing, you can put it into statistics that can be put on your website. It may identify something that you have missed, which you could then improve your service, which you can then feed back to your customers and say, thank you, it's an opportunity for you to engage with your customer. Thank you for that piece of feedback. As a result of that, we've now improved X, Y, Z. So that's it from me. Are there any questions at all about customer stereotypes?
How do you strike a balance between being persistent and being a pest?
I go from what I would consider as acceptable. So persistent is maybe once a week, a phone call with a voice message and an email. And I always keep my emails, I try for the phone first and I might leave a voicemail, but on an email I'll say things like, I haven't been lucky enough to catch you yet, just following up on our recent project, give me a call when you've got a moment. So keep it informal, not aggressive. Yeah, that's what, for me, that's what works. Thank you. Yes?
How do you charge bad clients?
How do I?
Charge bad clients.
How do I charge?
Because if you're on the phone with them for 2 hours, do you charge for that?
No, that's part of the service, but for me personally in my business, I offer unlimited email support and I encourage my customers to email me and then I'll phone them back and answer their problems, because the thing about the phone is it really interrupts your day. Not saying there's, to have contact with a customer is amazing and you do get through a lot on the phone which you don't on email and even more face to face, but if they're phoning, you've got 30 customers and they all phone up twice a day, your mind goes from project to customer to their project to their problem back to where was I? Hang on, oh, let's go on Facebook. So, I really, really try and get them to email me. And if it's going on for a long time, I'll say to them, look, I've got a meeting to go to. Please can you put your notes into an email and I will deal with it later on. Okay. Yes?
How about the immovable object? So I've got someone who's got, someone's put an idea in their head, which is a bit wrong, and it's stuck there and I can't seem to dislodge it.
I think it's something we all encounter in all of our jobs, and I really try and educate people. I ask them to come back to what are they trying to achieve, which is really following on from the presentation earlier. What do you want out of your website? Well, if someone's particularly stuck on a design, is this going to work on the website? A compromise might be that you do some A/B testing. So it's looking for a solution to that problem, because if you know that's not going to work because you've got so much experience in your field and you are the expert in your field, I find that it's good to remind a customer about that and that you value their input. So let's see if we can find a way to make both of us happy, because I know in my experience this isn't going to work. Take on board that you'd like this too, so maybe we can find a way to work together. But sometimes it is very difficult with customers, as you know, and you have to make them happy. But if it's not going to give them the results that they really want, which is really what Simon's saying about conversion rate optimization, if you're not going to get those results from the way they want to do something, and they're not an expert in our industry, then it's about educating them and trying to find a way to softly change that way of thinking. Okay, anyone else? Okay, lovely. Thanks very much.